If you are considering moving to Milton, Massachusetts, this video could save you a lot of time and potentially a lot of frustration. Milton is one of the most talked about towns outside of the Boston metro area. It is beautiful, it is established, it has incredible access to nature. This is definitely one of my top choices, if not my top choice, for people to live if they want to be just outside the city of Boston. But it's definitely not for everyone. So in this video, I'm going to be discussing what people love about living in Milton, what some people tend not to love so much about living in Milton, who Milton tends to be a great fit for, and who should probably think twice before moving here. Before we dive into the pros and cons here, let's talk a little bit about where Milton is actually located. So Milton sits just south of the city of Boston, right at the edge of the city, and depending on where you're going to be in town, you're about 8 or 10 miles from the middle of downtown Boston. So you're bordering Boston, you're bordering Quincy, and you're bordering Canton here. One of the defining features of Milton is that you're also bordering the Blue Hills Reservation, which gives this town an incredibly unique feel compared to some of the other suburbs with this proximity to Boston. So here you're going to be getting some tree-lined streets, some larger lots, more established homes, and a much quieter, more residential feel compared to some of the surrounding towns. This town is definitely established. It feels settled. It does not feel transient, and that is very important for the community feel that I'll get into in just a minute here. Now let's get into the pros or positive aspects of living in Milton, starting with your access to the city of Boston without actually living there. So you have great access, and if you're commuting by car, you can take the I-93 expressway northbound, or Blue Hill Avenue will also take you into areas in the western part of the city of Boston. And then if you're going to be commuting by train or subway, you do have red line access in some of the parts of Milton here via the trolley. That's going to take you to Ashmont station in Dorchester, where you can take the red line the rest of the way up into town. And then you have stops in nearby Quincy on the red line as well. If you prefer the commuter rail, if you want to be a little bit more productive on your way into work, you can head over to the Hyde Park area, which is just a few minutes drive away, and commute into town that way as well. So some great commuting options, whether you're taking car or the train or subway system. So for these buyers that really want to have access to the city, or they work in the city, but don't necessarily want to live in the Back Bay or South Boston full time, Milton offers this sort of quaint suburban feel and still gives you that great proximity to Boston. Pro number 2 is going to be your access to the Blue Hills, beaches, and other amenities. If you value outdoor access, this is a big one. The Blue Hills Reservation alone offers hiking, trail running, mountain biking, scenic views of the city and surrounding towns. You even have skiing up here in the winter, and if you have children or are planning to have children and you're wanting to get them into skiing, this is where myself, all of my friends really learned the basics of skiing before being able to head up to those larger mountains in New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine. So great starter hill, and it's a great place for kids to get together and learn how to ski without having to drive 2 hours up to the mountains. So the Blue Hills is not just a local park. It is a game changer, completely changes the way that people in Milton and the surrounding towns live week to week. My wife and I take our dog up there regularly. I actually proposed to my wife up there on one of the rock outcroppings that overlooks the surrounding towns. It is truly a great place to get out and experience nature without having to drive too far. For certain buyers, this alone makes Milton stand out. If you are into boating, there is a local yacht club in Milton that will take you down the Neponset River, but it is a little bit of a ride out to Boston Harbor here. So a lot of people that are living in Milton or nearby tend to dock their boats at Marina Bay in Quincy or another nearby yacht club. Then you also have some great access to beaches here in Milton in towns like Quincy, and then even in South Boston, you can get to some of the beaches up there. But I will say, if you are a resident not only of Milton, but some of these surrounding towns, and you're looking for a true beach day, a lot of people tend to go further down the South Shore coast to towns like Marshfield and Duxbury, because the beaches down there just feel a little bit more like true coastal beaches and less like city harbor beaches. But you do have great access to both, and of course you can go even further down the South Shore coast to the Cape and the islands. You also have some great access to both private and public golf courses in the area. One of the places that I have to mention is Granite Links. This is a bit of a hybrid between a private course and a public course. They have 9 holes that are exclusively reserved for members, and then an additional 18 holes that are publicly accessible. So the members, of course, get first dibs on the tee times, not just at the private course, but also on the public side. And this is not just a great place for golfers. The course is incredible. It's very well maintained. You have beautiful views of Boston and the surrounding towns. But also, even if you do not golf, the campus has a restaurant on site that serves some great food. It's a little bit quieter and toned down on that side of the parking lot. And then across the way at a place called Crossing Nines, that used to be basically a hot dog and beer stand, has sort of evolved into 2 outdoor patio bars alongside a massive driving range, all publicly accessible. They have live music up here on the weekends. It's a great place to meet friends, family for food, drinks. Awesome place to watch the sunset. You can see the entire horizon facing west, as well as views of the city to the north. So I love it up here in the summer. It is a great place to go, whether you are a golfer or not. But that said, the town of Milton has some great access to not just public courses, but also private courses nearby. Pro number 3 is the housing stock. Milton is primarily single-family homes, but you're going to find a combination of Victorians, colonials, capes, some larger center hall traditional homes. Some of these homes date back to the 1600s and have been beautifully renovated, but you're not going to find a ton of new luxury condo development here. What you do get is established neighborhoods with a lot of architectural character. For move-up buyers that are looking for those 3,000 square foot and up homes and a yard, Milton just tends to make more sense than trying to find that same thing in Boston proper. In East Milton along the expressway and along Blue Hill Ave on the Boston line, those neighborhoods tend to have homes that are a little bit more densely spaced. But outside of those areas, you can definitely find more breathing room, and there are some seriously beautiful neighborhoods in this town, and that's where you start getting into the more luxury level price points as well. Pro number 4 is the stability and long-term value here. Milton has historically held its value very well. This is definitely not a flashy appreciation market. It is very much a stability market. So for buyers that are planning to stay 5, 10, 15 years or more, that consistency matters a lot more than volatility. Pro number 5 is the community feel here. This is definitely not a transient rental heavy environment. People tend to stay here for quite some time. So that creates a great community vibe that people with families tend to prioritize above a lot of other things. Actually, back in February of 2024, 54% of Milton, Massachusetts voters rejected a town meeting approved plan to create new zoning for multifamily transit-oriented housing, which basically overturned compliance with the MBTA Communities Act. This decision basically led to an immediate loss of state grant funding and legal action by the Massachusetts Attorney General's office, as the town was essentially deemed non-compliant with state law. So this is how much Milton residents value the community feel of this town. On top of that, there are some great little town centers here in Milton, in East Milton Square, as well as in Milton Village by the Lower Mills. And those are great spots for some local restaurants, coffee shops, hardware stores. But if you're looking for a little bit more of a retail shopping experience, you still have great access to those areas in towns like Braintree, Dedham, Westwood, and even Hingham. The nice thing is in Milton, you don't have those giant retail shopping centers, so you're avoiding the traffic that comes alongside those areas, but you're still able to get to those retail centers pretty quickly from here, keeping that nice tight-knit community vibe here in the town itself. Pro number 6 is the school system here, and the schools are the reason a lot of people choose Milton and stay in Milton for quite some time. The public schools here are highly regarded with an A rating according to niche.com, and many of them have been very recently renovated. You also have Milton Academy in town, which is ranked among the top private schools in the entire country. And not only that, but you have great access to other amazing private school options nearby. Now let's get into the cons or drawbacks of living in Milton. Drawback number 1 is it is expensive. This is really not an entry-level town. Single-family homes here trade for a premium compared to some surrounding towns, with the average sales price being around $1.1 million, putting the luxury price points up around $2 to $3 million to start. Also, with higher price points, naturally you're going to have higher taxes, but the tax rate here is not above average compared to the surrounding towns. You're just dealing with higher price points. So for first-time buyers hoping to just get into Milton, it can definitely feel a little bit tight inventory-wise, and you're likely just going to be having to make some kind of a trade-off, whether that's having to deal with some upgrades when you move into the home or just having to deal with a slightly less desirable pocket of Milton. That said, you can still get into Milton under $1 million, and if you can, I recommend doing it as long as it matches the rest of your goals, but just know that the inventory is going to be a little bit tighter here. Drawback number 2 is the limited walkability here. Now, I've already mentioned those local town centers in East Milton Square and in Milton Village by the Lower Mills, but outside of those neighborhoods, you're very much going to be dependent on your car in this town. So just keep that in mind if you are looking for a town that is really, you're going to be able to walk to the local restaurants, coffee shops, grocery stores. Just keep in mind that unless you live right on top of one of those village centers, you're likely going to be reliant on your car here. And of course, those town centers are going to be a little bit denser compared to the surrounding neighborhoods. Drawback number 3 is Milton is not super trendy. It is not high energy. You are not looking at the Seaport or South Boston here. It is not a nightlife driven community. So if that's something that you are looking for in a town, this may not check that box for you. If you're looking for just access to those types of areas, you can obviously shoot up into Boston relatively quickly. And then you have right next door, you have Quincy, which offers Quincy Center and some other local neighborhood hubs that just generally offer a lot more nightlife than the town of Milton itself. So this might be a positive aspect for some people that are just looking for a more neighborhood feel. But if you are looking to be right on top of those high energy urban centers, Milton's probably not going to check that box for you. Drawback number 4 is the inventory can be tight here. Because people tend to stay in town for longer periods of time, turnover does not happen as constantly as it does in some surrounding neighborhoods. So if you're looking for something very specific here, I would definitely advise you work with an agent or a team that can A, help paint a clear picture of the market and what to expect here, and B, has a system for generating some pre-market or even off-market opportunities to give you a better chance to get in. If you're curious what that looks like, you can feel free to reach out to us and we'll walk you through it. But regardless, you still may need to be a little bit patient here depending on your specific situation. Now let's run through a quick punch list of who Milton could be perfect for. Milton tends to work very well for Boston professionals who want more space but a short commute, families prioritizing stability and community, buyers planning longer-term holds, and people who genuinely use outdoor space. This town definitely attracts buyers who are thinking beyond just the next 2 or 3 years. So who should think twice before actually moving here? Well, Milton tends not to work as well for buyers wanting a vibrant nightlife scene, first-time buyers with tighter budgets, investors who are looking for a higher rental turnover since people tend to want to stay here for longer term, buyers who want a lot of options for brand new construction inventory. If your priority is walkability and energy here, neighborhoods closer into town might just be a better fit for you. So Milton is not about flash. It is about quality of life, stability, and space. And for the right buyer, it checks boxes that very few towns this close to Boston can actually match. But it only works if your expectations align with what it actually offers. If you are considering Milton or trying to decide between Milton and another Boston area suburb, I'm happy to have that strategic conversation with you and understand what your goals are, what you are looking for in a community. Because in this market, it is really less about whether a town is good or not, and more about whether the town is a great fit for you and your goals. So feel free to reach out to us anytime. If this video was even remotely helpful for you, please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment if you have any questions. If you are a Milton area local and you have some additional input, feel free to drop it into the comments. I love turning these into a little bit more of an interactive exchange. In the meantime, hopefully this gave you a great understanding of Milton. If you're not from around here, if you're buying or selling a home nearby, feel free to give us a shout. And in the meantime, thank you again so much for watching the video. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.